Good morning. This is my second try at doing this video today. I shot it originally this morning when I was not entirely awake. It did not work out quite so well. As I was just getting ready to go through all the video footage, it was just all garbage. So I gave up. And we're back here now. So I just wanted to give a little garage update. Got an upcoming project, or a couple projects that's going to be on the channel. I've been running the heck out of this poor little Prusa i3 knockoff. It's built by a company, they call themselves Kuchir. And for all intents and purposes, it's a Prusa i3. This one in particular has a heavier frame, which is good because some of these cheaper printers do not. It also has actual lead screws for the Z-axis, and it has some fairly large stepper motors to drive them. And those are kind of some of the areas that these tend to be short-changed when they're the knockoffs. It also has a heated bed, which I was surprised that, as cheap as a heated bed is, it doesn't show up on every printer. This one is a 220 by 270 millimeter, which is fairly large. It's a 8.5 by 10.5. But unfortunately, it's not big enough for a lot of what I'm doing. Some time ago, I built a Lawgiver, and I whipped it out fairly fast, hard coated it so it would survive more than a minute at convention, and this one served me fairly well for a while. And it is based off of a Beretta, and as you can see, the grips actually line up, the trigger area lines up, the barrel lines up, and this is how the original movie prop was done. I actually found photos of it online, and they basically added in all the extra elements. And I found a model file online that is all my detail layouts really close, but unfortunately it was scaled down. It was meant to just be a prop that sits up on the mantle, and it's no big deal. Well, I stretched the model out and ran it as big as my bed would run, and it wasn't enough. So when you actually line these up, the triggers don't line up like at all. Where the barrel needs to come out doesn't line up, and it's a little dinky. I mean, I don't have big hands by any means, but it looks like a little kid's gun, proportion wise. So that's kind of facilitated the need to get a bigger printer. So that's the one project I started. I actually have 2 power supplies sitting here. I got some little bearings for one of the control surfaces that I need. Extra slider block or bearing blocks. Those are just the first of many parts that are going to be coming in. And it's probably going to have a print area roughly the size of this entire footprint. So it's going to be an 18 by 18 inch heated bed, and then I'm going to probably strap that heater PCB to the underside of a 20 by 20 piece of aluminum. So I should have a little wiggle room past the 18 by 18 to work with. But that PCB is going to require 2 power supplies to run it. It's just too much juice. Other things that I've done, which is why I went to the trouble of getting a second printer. Let's get you in. So I'll show you guys a picture of these two Hypnotoads, and the biggest thing is on the back here. You can really see the layering on this one, and I tightened up the layers on this second one, so that way, you know, it makes it a much cleaner model. Well, it also takes a lot more time to do it that way, which is why the other thing I'm doing, which is why this area is cleaned out, is I'm actually going to pick up a second one of these and do a build log of it, so you guys can be, because I did a time lapse of this one, but I didn't really know what I was doing. The lighting sucked. We're just, I can do better, so we're going to do better. In case you were ever wondering, this little guy came off of Thingiverse, where I've got, like, the Hypnotoads came from Thingiverse. I decided that it was way too cute, so we're making 2 of them. I might make 3, depending on how much brown I have left on my spool. Yeah, and before I switch back to doing more Hypnotoads. But anyway, that's kind of what we had going on, and in the world of in my garage for the last few days. Just got back from a convention, so that's kind of been yeah. Actually, that was when the day I was taking a break from the convention when I did the Ethernet to run for my computer here. But anyway, so yeah, we did a couple good projects. I got this one where it's actually dialed in, running the way it's supposed to. One of the things that this printer needed, it needed a guide up here for the filament, because if the filament rubs on on the knob at all, it'll speed up or slow down the printer, which is very inconvenient. We actually had a runaway that ripped the whole hot end apart. And unfortunately, we were keeping an eye on it and caught it before it ate itself completely. But so I actually replaced the whole hot end because it had baked the wires back quite a ways. But the extruder itself, this gold piece is kind of right in here. That's a upgraded part. The factory one has 2 pieces. I'll kind of show you here. So the factory one, the bottom piece just bolts down to the hot end, and the fan bolts through it to hold the servo on, and then it has a spring that tips the upper part. Problem is that when you pull the fan off, the spring unloads the servo, which just doesn't work for what I need to do. Because when you're trying to feed the filament in, it's a lot easier to do it with the fan off. So this one has a back plate that's integrated into the bottom piece. So once you pull the fan off, it's still, the servo and spring are still being retained, which is much better design. So when I ordered the new one, I ordered that. I also have an extra one of the stainless steel drive gears, because I've had problems where when you're running the printer hard, it makes a lot of back pressure on the gear, and it can slip by and then shave off little bits of brass that fall down into your nozzle and cause clogs, and the whole world kind of grinds to a halt at that point. Prints are lost, and you know. But I'm getting to the point where I can run consistently, so that's what I'm doing. But because I'm running the lower layer height, which takes quite a bit longer, every print's going to occupy the printer that much longer. So I'm going to actually be running dual printers a lot of the time, where when I have a big project that exceeds the bed, I'll run the jumbo printer, and when I'm running smaller parts, because there's a bunch of parts to this, like the barrel and the clip and whatnot, I could be running those on a little printer, running baby Groots or Hypnotoads on the other printer, and running the big parts all at the same time, which is the way I wanted to kind of set up. With having my original plan was to have 3 or 4 small printers running all the time, and with the jumbo printers extra capability there, and as rigid as that machine should be when it's done, because instead of using things like these guide rails, I'm going to be or guide bars, I'm going to be running like a T-rail for like a CNC machine, which should be fairly stout. So I should be able to run fairly fast and have it actually stay dimensionally accurate, which will be helpful. I'm not sure on how to, I can build the machine. I'm pretty sure that's going to work out just fine. But setting up the controller is going to be interesting. I'm going to be running similar servos to what I have here, similar belt drive. There's going to be a lot of elements pulled directly off of this printer for the final product, and that's gonna help a lot because I can pull a lot of the numeric values out of the controller for this when I'm plugging it into the new one, and at least get it in the ballpark. And from there, it's just a matter of tuning it up and making it work the way it's supposed to talk to itself. As I'm sure it'll freak out because the beds. My intention is to have the bed fixed and have basically it be a belt drive for the X and the Y axis will all be built into the overhead of the machine, similar to the way an Ultimaker runs, and then the bed will drop away, and so things, if I programmed it exactly the same as this one, the Z-axis would move opposite of what I want it to. But little things to figure out. And again, we'll be a lot further into the project by the time I get down to figuring out the control systems, and I'll be studying up long before then. But yeah, we should be a pretty straightforward project once I get the frame done. It's just a matter of making the electronics know which way to move, and life will go on. But anyway, that's about it for today. A little short one. Once probably later this week, the new printer will show up. Hopefully, the extruder head will show up in the same motion, so I can just set it up. Basically, I'm just going to be cloning this machine, every piece, right down to the nut and bolt, so that way when I'm running whatever code I run for this machine, I'll be running for machine 2, which will keep my interchangeability. And that's part of why I went with the same machine. Besides that, this is the biggest build area you can get for under $300. And really, it's hard to get that big build area for under $500. The closest you can get in a pre-built machine is like a Da Vinci. They run an 8.5 by 8.5 build area, and they're about $500. You get into the aforementioned Ultimakers, and you're into $2,500 to $4,000. And the Ultimakers are wicked fast. They're accurate and they're wicked fast. They have great tech support. This thing, not so much. I am slowly turning up the speed and getting consistent results, and that's for me, the consistent results are more important than having blistering speed, and the fact it's cheap. So you kind of get what you pay for. So I got a big build area. It goes plenty fast for my purposes, and it's fairly accurate under the speeds that I'm running it. Yeah, and unfortunately, I've been running a lot of fairly complicated items because in simpler stuff, I can actually run this machine considerably faster than I generally run it for stuff like the Hypnotoads or whatnot. That's about it for today, and maybe I'll let Jack say goodbye. You gonna say goodbye, Jack? Jack, you gonna say goodbye? Or do you just want a carrot? Probably just want a carrot, huh? Alright, fine. I'll get you some carrots.